So I'm Sara Robertson from ScotBeer Tours. ScotBeer is a walking tour company. We do walking tours in Edinburgh and Glasgow, and we tell the history of Scotland through beer. The problem that we're trying to solve is that as a new company we are growing. That's great, but it makes it difficult because you don't know what your level of demand is going to be in the future. Therefore, you don't know how many staff you need. And it takes us a month to train somebody to be a guide. And it takes a month, 2 months to find, say, the right person once you start looking. But as a smaller business, you can't afford to take on more full-time or fixed hours people. So you bring people on with flexible contracts, which also means you get really interesting people because they have other projects, other jobs in their life. But you need to be able to give them some idea of how much work you're going to be able to give them and when they're going to get that work. Yeah, so we gathered the data from our booking system. So one of the things that I was really disciplined about was making sure that everything went into the booking system, regardless of whether it was taken over the phone, by email, last minute, somebody just showing up, everything in the booking system. So then you have a data source. And then it's just a case of exporting that data and using pivot tables. So I love a pivot table. Best thing anybody ever taught me how to use. But yeah, using just Google Sheets, so nothing fancy. You don't need, especially when you're early stage, you don't have a huge amount of data. So just Google Sheets. So what I did was I took the data from our sales last year and projected that forward with our growth rates to calculate how many guides we would need on each day of the week by week in the year. So you can't just do it by 1st of May last year, 1st of May this year. Because if 1st of May last year was a Saturday and this year it's not, then you're going to get the wrong answer. You also can't bunch it up and say, this month we need this many people, because there are bank holiday weekends, there are things that make it spike and trough. So it was mapping that forward. And also, you can't go by the number of, just the number of people, because some of those, you might get a group of 15, but then you might get a private tour of 2 people. So it's being able to map that demand, which I guess was the bit of data work. After that, it's quite simple to slot it all in. Thinking through the logic. So even if you don't know how to use Excel or Google Sheets, that's actually the easy part. The hard part is the logic. So think through what the problem is that you're trying to solve, and then you can ask somebody else to write the formulas who knows how to do it. So the data from that we used to set up scheduling software, and we created like standby shifts for people. So they weren't confirmed shifts that they were definitely working. They knew that it was a projection, and so the way that you can measure how accurate your prediction is how many times you have to add and delete shifts. So mostly they've been pretty good. There are definitely some dates where they are different from what I expected. But that's also a challenge of when you're early stage, you don't have a huge amount of data. So when you're projecting off a smaller database, then it's going to be less accurate. Whereas this year, we have more data, so next year should be more accurate. There's also things you can't control, like Brexit. It's not that your model isn't accurate, it's just that there's a variable that you can't factor in. So has the project been successful? Yes, in that it's enabled us to scale. So I needed to bring on more guides, and that we did based on that data, and they were able to commit time. Ultimately, I'd say the data science skill is being able to understand your data set, collect the data in the first place proactively ahead of time, even if you don't know what you're going to use it for. If it's easy to collect and it doesn't get in the way, do it. And then knowing the problem that you want to address. Yeah, so the reason data is important, even if you're not a data science person, is that it enables you to make decisions and also to understand your business.